Welcome back to Sophie and Marco dish on the movies, TV, and maybe a few books once in a while. Personally, I've been sicker than a dog for the last few days. And we also celebrated Halloween, our family's favorite holiday of the year. Today we're going to talk about Sleepaway Camp 1, 2, and 3. The first one came out in 1983. It begins with people having fun near a body of water. A dad and his young son and daughter are playing around with a sailboat. They turn it over, but they're wearing life vests and splashing around and laughing and having a good time. A nearby group of teenagers are water skiing.
Uh-oh.
Not looking where she's going, one of the girls runs over the father and two children. Fade to 8 years later. Angela and Ricky are getting ready for camp. They are about 12 or 13 or 14 years old. Ricky is a very outgoing boy, but his cousin Angela is quiet and has the biggest, darkest brown eyes.
Yeah, I met her at a convention last year. She's she's not very quiet at the conventions.
Well, she laughed and was very outgoing.
Not compared to the movie where she's like a comatose zombie or something.
Yeah. Anyway, they leave for camp and everyone gives Angela a pass. She doesn't have to swim or do anything she doesn't want, including taking a shower with everyone else. Her cousin is off with his friends playing tricks and trying to get close to girls. Campers and counselors start dropping off like flies. The cook, in fact, a pedophile,
Oh,
who's revealed by his lines, is the first to be killed.
yay!
There are bully girl campers and bully counselors who are mean to Angela. In response, she just looks at them with her big brown eyes and doesn't say a word. At the end, the killer is discovered. Sleepaway Camp 2 is another summer camp for teenage boys and girls. Everyone checks in and it looks like a nice camp. During this movie, the focus is on the counselors as much as the campers. In fact, the first victim is a camper who just talks too much. And the killer starts collecting the bodies in an abandoned cabin. I could hardly keep up with the body count and who all the victims were. Sleepaway Camp 3, or Teenage Wasteland, and I guess they called it that because it's a wasteland of bodies.
Well, the second one was called Unhappy Campers. Let's not forget that.
Oh, okay.
Some
Does the
interesting.
first one have a little subtitle too?
No,
Okay. So would you say the second one is Unhappy Camper?
Unhappy Campers.
Unhappy Campers.
Because everyone's unhappy because they're all getting killed and
Well, I think-
destroyed
Well,
in a blaze of fire or something.
okay, well, Sleepaway Camp 3 begins with a teenage girl smarting off to her parents in a New York City apartment. Wearing a backpack, she heads down the street to the camp bus stop and is suddenly mowed down by a garbage truck. Guess who steps out of the truck?
Frankenstein?
Spoiler alert, the killer from the last movie. This is a special camp bringing teenagers together.
It's a diversity camp.
It's a diversity camp bringing teenagers together from different races and backgrounds and parts of the country. As the movie unfolds, the killer easily knocks off one person after another. In fact, it's so easy for her to kill since there are fewer campers and counselors and it's even easier. It was easier for me to keep track of who the victims were. And I guess I must say this, and it's not a spoiler, is that in the second one and the first one, they had buildings where the kids stayed, and in the third one,
They're all out in the forest, all out in the open,
they're
like
spread up
sitting
in
ducks.
well, they're spread out into groups, and in fact they never stay in any of the cabins. They're camping out completely the whole movie.
Yeah.
So it might be a little easier for a killer to start preying on
Just
the victims.
run around slashing whoever she wants. Okay.
Ugh.
Or who he wants, whoever the killer is, I don't know. It's a she. Okay, so the first one I thought was a very I personally I don't like the Friday the 13th movies that much. I like the second, third, and the fourth and the seventh, but I don't really like any of the other ones. And for me, the first one, it really parodies Friday the 13th and like using water, have the thing at the beginning with the water and having the stupid teenagers, and then you go through and you have how it's really it's basically like before Friday the 13th when Jason was getting bullied by everybody and you had all these horrible people around, and it really shows how camp can be horrible, I guess. I mean, I never had that type of experience that
Well,
she
I love
had.
camp.
Yeah, and I mean, she, I can't fault her for killing some of the people like that pedophile. But on the other hand, a lot of the other people, they were just being mean and they didn't really deserve to get killed. And I loved how at one moment you rooted for the killer and then another moment you didn't because she killed somebody that you liked. And I like the surprise ending, and I love all the acting, especially the cousin, and I like the everyone who's a bully is really good at being horrible.
Yeah. I guess if you want to be, they say when you're an actor, if you can be mean or bad, or that's almost like their favorite part because they're not like that in real life. So they get to really put it all in being mean or a bully. And I thought they were good at doing that as well. Um,
So you really like the first one?
well, I have never. I saw Friday the 13th maybe once. So Marco is going on how he thinks they parodied it and because of these certain things that happened, and I just have that. I don't have the experience. I have never seen or even heard, except because he told me, but I had never heard on my own any about any of these three movies. And so they're very short and they're easy to watch. They don't drag. They're very right to the point. They're a little, oh, you know.
Well, the
they don't-
first one's a straight horror movie. It's
Yes,
not
the
a
first
comedy.
one is a big horror. I mean, it's horrific.
And it was very, you said it was very 80s or very dated.
Well, the reason why I say that is because of their clothes. Ew. Ew.
They have those guys and they're all in these like tiny shorts and it's really awkward. I mean, it's basically the opposite today where you have the girls wear these really tiny shorts and the guys don't. But back then I guess it was the opposite.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I don't like either. It's just, it's really uncomfortable. I mean, I used to do that. I wore really short shorts and about that time, and it isn't comfortable. And you have to have really good legs too, and some people who do it do not have really good legs, but that's all beside the point. But that was a style. The boys in that time, the basketball players, I mean, you could see it if you watch a basketball game from back then. They wore these little short shorts, and ew, I do not like it.
And the hair was pretty interesting too. I like the bully. I can't recall her name. Okay, Judy. She had the huge ponytail on one side of her head, then on the other side of her head she just had straight hair. It was really funny, and then you had the pedophile, and he just had that big white costume thing, and he looked. I mean, why would you hire somebody that looked like that? I mean, he didn't look like a friendly chef. I mean, I from what I could tell, he didn't even know how to cook. He was just throwing stuff in a pot, and he was stirring it around. And so I don't know why he was hired. It makes me think that the adults really didn't care about about these horrible other adults that they hired. It was almost like, oh, let's just hire whoever's cheapest.
Yeah, it would that be? I mean, it's a movie. It's a horror movie, and maybe it could be that back then you'd have people like that. I don't know. I went to a Girl Scout camp for like 4 or 5 years in a row. Everything was very organized, and I think they had background checks. And I mean, today definitely they would have background checks, and you know, there wouldn't be this. But that's all beside the point. The first one it was a strict horror movie, meaning it went right along.
It was pretty
It started
terrifying.
out horrible and it ended horrible.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah, it's really actually a better word.
And I'm not going to give anything away, but my favorite shot of the whole movie is when somebody's in the cabin and the killer opens up the door, and it's the shot from like the ground, and it's just her shadow, and you can't, or his shadow, or whose shadow, whatever, and you can't tell who it is, and they're just standing there with the knife. I mean, that's a cool shot. And going back, I only saw this movie once before, and I was really surprised by how good it was. I mean, I remember not even liking it very much, but this time, I really, really liked it a lot.
Well, like I said, I'd never heard of it. Back then I was busy and I'd never heard of it, never saw it, and if it wasn't for Marco, probably wouldn't have watched it. But it was worth my time and I enjoyed it, and because we were trying to do a lot of horror movies because it was the month of October, we decided to watch all three.
Yeah,
so we could compare them.
It's easy
each other.
because years ago I got the box set, so. And then the second one is drastically different than the first one, which I would imagine would piss a lot of people off. But the second one is actually the one I saw first.
Why is that?
I can't remember.
Oh.
Oh, wait, no, it was because, okay, it was free on YouTube to watch, that's why. Because the first one I couldn't watch, the third one I couldn't, but the second one was completely on YouTube, and I loved it.
Yeah, here I'm his mother, and he was able to watch this movie. How old were you, Marco?
I don't know.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, what can we say about the second one in reference to the first one? It's completely different because, like I said, I think there's more of a focus on the counselors, and it was like they were nicer people. Except there was a bully girl, but I mean,
Everyone
overall,
in the camp was nice.
Overall, everybody was pretty nice. The head of the camp was pretty nice. And I don't know, the way they talked, I thought, mistakenly, that the head of the camp was related to one of the counselors. And then Marco tells me at the end of the movie that that's what everybody just calls him. So, I mean,
Uncle John.
I must
Or,
start to get
no.
sick.
Uncle Al.
Um,
Is it Uncle John or Uncle Al?
I don't remember. I don't even think I have it on there, but it doesn't matter because that's just trivial. The point was that it was more of a real camp where, and the kids were older too. There were some young people. It seemed like a lot of them were older. Older meaning they were in middle school or maybe starting high school. And I don't know what else to say, but the killer is,
You really didn't like this movie.
well, I don't know. I can't remember why. Except, I mean, she just starts.
You didn't like how everyone got killed, but that's the whole point of it. It's supposed to be a comedy. It's
Well,
supposed
that's
to be making fun of Friday the 13th, how
Well,
there are these kids having sex. Oh, they deserve to die. There's a kid smoking marijuana. He deserves to die. And it's just that stupid thing of, like, just because kids are doing something unchristianly, I guess, in her case, that they deserve to die. And it really seemed like she was taking out her anger that she had from the first movie on all the people in the second movie, because honestly, like, even the bully girl, she wasn't that horrible. She was
annoying.
She was a stupid cheerleader, and I'm glad she got destroyed.
Well, I just
The
didn't
way
like
she
the
did.
way that, oh, you did this wrong, so therefore you're gonna die. You did this wrong, therefore you're gonna die. I mean, if you sat around here and you walked through a store and you watched all these people, or even Marco, who just graduated from high school, if he went through the classroom and he saw, okay, somebody's playing a video game, well, they're gonna die. You know, you just be, who was it? Why was it her? Why was she the judge, jury, and the executioner? And
Because she felt like she had to be, because of all the horrible experience she's been through, and they're making fun of the absurdity of that kind of thing, where you have, I mean, there were a lot of people in the 80s, and they were acting like teenagers were horrible people, and they weren't respectful and all that stuff, and they're making fun of that, and how she just gets rid of them, and she has her agenda, and even if you're not very bad, or if you just talk too much,
yeah,
boop, you die. And she has to hide the fact that she's killing people. She has to worry about getting caught, and so someone could just walk in and she would have to kill them too. And I really like that, how she had to struggle. You know, you have like Jason, and he didn't have to struggle ever when he killed people. He just slash and kill whoever he wanted. But in this movie, it's like, she's walking in, boom, I have to kill her, I have to drag the body out. She had to worry.
well, it was just weird because the person, the killer, is all smiley, and she she's just, I mean, you never know, she's like a female Ted Bundy or something. And even worse, I mean, she's just like, oh, hello, let's be a happy camper today, we're going to have so much fun. And you would never know if the woman had an evil bone in her body. In fact, when she killed people, it wasn't that she was being evil. It was just like she was ridding the planet of people who didn't conform to her standards of living. And I don't know if it just got worse and worse, because I think what happened was, you could tell that from when the third one came around, that she killed a few too many people.
Well,
And
she's having nightmares.
yeah, she felt bad, or it bothered her, quote, it bothered her
I
to
really
kill that many people.
I loved how she would be really talky, and then she sees someone smoking. She gets really quiet and has this. I mean, she's really good. It's too bad she never continued acting anymore after a certain time, because she was a lot better than. She had a face, and all these other killers, they don't have faces. They have these masks, and
Yeah, that's true. That makes this different too. The killer has a face, and she doesn't hide who she is. Maybe to other people, but I mean, we get to see who it is. So I guess we'll go to the third one now. And
yeah,
the third one is
a slasher.
it's just it's just slash here, boom, 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 one right after another. It's like and that's what kills me. Like I told you, it starts out with this girl. She gets mowed down, and then the person coming out of the garbage truck, which mowed her down, is the killer.
And one after the other. Boom, boom, boom,
So,
boom.
what happened there? The first killer, the first time from uh, the second camp, she got away with it. And
Now I wish they would have shown that. Would have shown her, whatever happened at the end of the second one continuing, because I really didn't like how. I mean, they're really trying. I hate this, how in these older movies they feel like they have to show a girl's boobs in order to attract an audience.
well,
And I mean,
male audience.
that's the first shot of the movie. I mean, not even. I mean, the second one you wait 10 minutes or so, but in the third one, as soon as the movie starts, oh yeah, look at that girl lying in bed with her boobs out, and then I mean, it's so awkward, and I hated how Angela just appears out of nowhere with a garbage truck, and
Well, I guess the problem is there's a lot of questions that come up at the beginning of this movie, and with a movie like this, I guess you're really not supposed to think.
yeah,
You're just supposed to roll with it. Okay, that's nice. But after you've seen all these movies, it's just like reading. The more you see, the better ones you start to be able to spot the more quality ones because of things they do or they don't do. And it's just like a book. I've read a ton of books, and you begin to see the books that are a formula, they're part of a series, they're very easy. You take them to the beach.
it doesn't have to be a very long explanation.
No,
I mean, the
not at
second
all.
one, they just had a little campfire chat, and they could have done the same type of thing. They could have had the girl's parents.
Narration. They could have had a little narration.
No, they
Well-
could have had the girl's parents talking about.
Oh yeah.
Hey, should we send her to camp? I don't know. There's a killer who escaped, and they could have done that instead of what they did.
That would have been nice. So, I mean, especially for me, because I had never seen the movies before. I've only seen that other movie that Robert and Marco was talking about once. That I'm completely at a loss. So I just have to watch and try to figure everything out and make assumptions, which I don't like to do because my assumptions could be totally wrong, but it doesn't matter. You just watch the movie and you quote enjoy it as much as you can. It's the third one of the series. So you think, well, how did this girl get free after killing all those people?
And then I thought the third one was a downgrade because it was very focused. And the second one is a masterpiece, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of characterization, and yet in the third one, every character is just a stereotype. And you have the same director and the same writer, and it feels like a completely different thing. And it feels like every kid is just a piece of crap, and even in it's not spoiler talk yet, but you know, every kid is just horrible, and you know, I don't get the message. And I liked how Angela was disguising herself as a camper and saying she looks older because she did massive drugs and alcohol. Like, like that's believable that a girl back then would look a lot older because of all the drugs she did.
But that really, I don't know. That wasn't really a big drug time. I don't know, at least that I could tell, but they accepted it. And it was so funny because the haircuts they were the Farrah Fawcett. She had the Farrah Fawcett haircut. It was so funny. It's very recognizable in the 80s. From Charlie's Angels, Farrah, Farrah Fawcett. So I thought that was funny.
And so how would you rate the first one, second one, and then the third one in terms of food?
Well, I, like you, thought, well, maybe you like the second one the best, but the first one, it's really hard for me to think about food right now. I've had absolutely no appetite. But the first one, because it's a complete horror movie. It's horrific at the beginning and it's horrific at the end. And it moves very fast and it's short. So I gave it Kentucky Fried Chicken with mashed potatoes and gravy and a cookie.
Oh.
And then the second one...
Is the cookie the surprise?
Well, you told me not to say anything. The second one I'm giving it a can of beefaroni. And each noodle represents all the victims.
God.
I mean, it was like, kaboom.
Really?
Here's one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. And it's just like she kind of got out of control. Not like any kind of murder isn't out of control, but I mean, she just went too far. She even, in the third one, she felt bad about two people she had killed in the second one. So
Oh, we can't talk about that.
But we can't talk about that, but which is funny. She killed all those people, but she felt bad about two of them she killed. So how a murderer, a serial murderer, a mass murderer would feel bad about anybody
Well, that
they
shows
killed is weird.
that shows that she's not a stereotype. She's not a sociopath. She's somebody that's been affected by everything she's gone through, and so she does have a humanity left compared to other people who just wouldn't give a...
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to say
Care.
it. The third one, I gave it a can of soup because that's just about all I had appetite for, and it's a continuation of the other two. But there's too many questions. I don't
soupier.
like that. It's what?
It's soupier than the second one
Nah.
because the second one actually has substance to it, where the third one's soup, just soup, and not very good soup either. I would say really cheap soup.
Well, I don't eat any cheap soup, but it's probably, I mean, tonight I'm going to have probably a can of bean and bacon soup, which is pretty good. I like it with the cheese sandwich, but I don't want to give it all that. So I probably just give it a can of tomato soup all by itself, and I would never eat a can of soup all by itself, well, tomato soup, because we usually have grilled cheese with it.
Alright, so I would rate the first one just a regular hot dog with lots of ketchup to represent the violence, the blood, and just being a horror movie, just a good horror movie. And the second one, I would give that 2 huge chili cheese dogs with a chocolate malt.
I wouldn't mind having a chili cheese dog.
And the chili cheese dog, I mean, obviously a lot better than ketchup, because I don't really like ketchup a lot.
Whoa!
And excuse me?
Go ahead. The squirrel just flew from one side of the window to the other. Sorry.
And the chili would represent the comedy, and the chocolate malt would represent just how satisfied it makes you at the end.
Sounds good.
The third one is a little chicken fried steak,
Really?
a lot leaner. Like in the third one, they don't really show any of the kills, like the violence, basically because there were so many victims that they had to cut it down for the rating, and that's really unfortunate because it really brings down the quality of a slasher movie when you can't even show blood and guts. And also with the chicken fried steak, it gets a squirt of gravy, and I mean there's a little tiny squirt, and there's nothing else.
Wow.
And how I would rank the series, I'll go first this time. I would rate the best is the second one, of course. It's a masterpiece in horror. It's my second favorite horror movie of all time. And the first one is really surprising how good it is. It's the second best. And then the third one's the least best because it's juvenile and it doesn't feel as mature as the second one does. What about you?
Well, I rank the first one the best because it starts off the series and it's a complete movie. And it does seem a little cheesy and cheap. Some of the photography, I don't know. It's not. The second one is a lot better in terms of like photography, and I don't know how to explain it, but it seems a little bit more effort was expended. But the first one, you're telling a story. Trying to tell a complete story with a beginning, a middle, and the end. The first one has that. The problem with the second one and third one, in terms of the quality, is that well, the third one is not as good, and I agree with Marco. It just is the worst because there's just too many questions. And the thing is, if you have camp, you would not allow pedophiles to be there, and if you saw
Cousin Virgil.
You would not allow. And the third one, they had a counselor. Was the man? There was a man and woman, like a husband and wife. They were running the camp, and he was trying to have sex with one of the campers. That means she was underage, and he's an adult, so he's committing a crime. And I'm like, I really don't care for that.
His excuse was, "Oh, my wife's not getting me." He just keeps getting hit over and over and over again. And it's a fun slasher movie if you take Sleepaway Camp, the title, off of it. Because if you have the title on, it feels kind of disrespectful to the franchise.
Well, I guess you would have, with the title, you have more expectations. Because how the hell did a girl who committed all these murders get away and able to do anything in the third one? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. I don't see, there have been murders. They just talked about this woman who murdered her kids. She drowned them in the bathtub. She's in a mental institution. I don't think she's in jail. It's like a mental institution. She's not out. And you see this is reality. And how does a teenage girl escape? I mean, we don't know. There's too many questions. That drives me nuts. I don't like that.
Okay, so you'd rate it 1, 2, 3. Best
Yeah,
to worst.
I would.
Which is kind of unfortunate because that shows that you think that the series dropped in quality as it went along.
Well, the second one, it isn't that it's worse. It's good in some ways. Like the photography, you can tell they had more money. It just looks better, and they concentrated on the characters, I think, a lot more. And the first one is it's like stereotypes. That's what I mean. It seems like when a movie doesn't have the money and it doesn't have the time, you resort to stereotypes. So the first one, you almost had a few stereotypes, and the last one, you definitely had a ton
And nudity.
of stuff. Yeah, well, that's really funny too. I mean, it just doesn't even bother me. It's just like, oh God, not again. And barf. And anyway, I don't like that with stereotypes. It's almost like cheating, or it's a shortcut that isn't a quality
It's
shortcut.
lazy writing.
Yeah, lazy. It's laziness. I don't like it. That sounds like Marco's getting my sickness, and
I
that's
just
not good.
choked on my lemonade.
Oh.
Okay, so next up is the spoiler talk. So, to be continued.